Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And our guest today is Pat Williams. He's CEO and co-founder at iScribeHealth. Welcome, Pat.
Thanks, John. Good to be here.
Yeah, excited for this discussion. It's part of our ongoing series of AI medical scribes, EHR AI assistant, ambient clinical voice. I don't know what category is the name, but anyway, people know it's solving doctors' problems, so I love it. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about yourself and iScribe Health.
Yeah, John. Again, Pat Williams, co-founder and CEO, as you've already said, of iScribe Health, based in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a Nashville native, which is apparently becoming increasingly rare as this great city continues to explode.
Uh-huh. That's awesome. Well, yeah, we're excited to learn more about iScribe Health. What would you say is the kind of the story behind your company?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll walk you through it as succinctly as I can. And we've got a really remarkable story and journey. We're kind of experiencing what I like to jokingly say is a 10-year overnight success, John. And when I tell our story, I like to break it down in Netflix style into really three unique seasons. We're in the start of season four, which is the most exciting season by far. But yeah, we really started the business. Myself and my co-founder, who's Justin Hips, who spent the first 10 years of his career with Greenway. We both grew up in the healthcare IT space. We've both primarily been in sales and marketing roles most of our careers. We've been selling software and services to physicians for most of our careers. So now we felt obligated to help solve some of the problems that we contributed to during the EHR madness. But yeah, in mid late 2015, when we started the business, the backdrop was, the iPhone was still only a couple of years old. You had EHRs, of course, were really starting to become, already had been, still are today, the bane of every physician's existence. And you also had this transition period of a lot of physicians migrating from traditional transcription to voice recognition, right? So the original thesis and the founding story of iScribe was, let's just make EHRs easier to use, right? Like, how do we just fundamentally help do that? And so the process behind that was, let's create a mobile app that has a very easy to use consumer feel, that's downloadable, that overlays on top of legacy EHRs and does exactly that. This allows physicians to get all the information in and out of the EHR in a simpler, easier fashion without being as obstructive in the exam room as it had become. Again, voice recognition was a big part of that. So essentially, with thumb and voice, we would allow the physician to much more quickly than the EHR move through an encounter. That was, again, this is the early days, 2 men in a truck. We went out and got our first initial customers. We initially integrated, built very deep integrations, by the way, in this process and in this season, on top of Greenway, on top of Athena Health, and we got our footing. We got our first few customers. We got our first $1 million in ARR. It was great. Realized we were onto something. We had a business here. And then that season one started to transition to season two in mid late 2019, and season two coincided with the rise of the human scribe, right? So as we were calling on busy orthopedic groups in particular, one area where we've had a lot of success to date, this just became the recurring theme, right? As great as our app was, and we thought, oh, we've built the perfect app. You're never going to need a scribe ever again, right? Well, these busy physicians were to the point where it's like, I don't care what it costs, just let me have that essentially personal assistant who's going to awkwardly sit in the corner of the room, feverishly type, right? Sometimes it was someone who worked at Best Buy last week, amazingly, who was rushed through some sort of certification process. And so again, it was one of these, being the young, nimble entrepreneurial business that we were. If you can't beat them, join them. So we started to think, okay, there's something to this. We should offer this as an option to these super high volume physicians who want that. And then we were able to offer pure technology voice recognition in the season one app to everyone else. So it really became this unique, at the time, versatile platform that could sort of get everyone sitting around the table. The provider who was using legacy transcription, the provider who was using Dragon, someone point and click, just all these various options that were often being serviced by 3 or 4 vendors. We could be the one-stop shop to everyone in the practice, and that worked really well. Matter of fact, it worked a little too well. It took off, so we started to hire internally part-time hourly folks. These were a lot of med students, work from home folks. This is all during the COVID timeframes. There were a lot of people available to do this. And the virtual scribing thing really took off as the number one sort of lead interest for the business. still able to sell technology, but we kind of found ourselves in this awkward, foot in two canoes, one going the pure technology route, the other going the tech-enabled services route. And it just became a challenge. At our peak, we had, however, we learned a ton during that process. We had 125 human scribes at our peak, lots of lessons learned, particularly around physician acceptance, what it really takes to deliver good quality notes with high accuracy. But again, very, very difficult and hard to scale business leading into season 3, which kicked off, of course, in about mid 2023 when the AI UFO, as I like to describe, landed on planet Earth. And we quickly realized, wow, this was, and we were confident that AI would eventually get there. I think it got there a lot quicker than any of us ever imagined it would. And we were so well positioned because of that history of season 1 and season 2 that I just described. We were already essentially on second base when the game started. We took the 120 scribes to zero over the course of 120 days, took $1 million in cost off the P&L. We've never looked back. We grew 150% last year. And yeah, it's been a remarkable, so we're sort of the poster child of that AI transition capability of taking what was a very human-centric business and back to where we wanted to be at the start of season 1, which is pure tech. So hopefully that was succinct as possible. Season 4 is where we are today with a really exciting roadmap, and we expect 2025 to be the most exciting season yet.
Yeah, that's such an interesting background story. Do you still have a lot of doctors who want the physical scribe though? And that's got to be a hard transition, right?
Yeah, it was for some, not all. Now, of course, remember, the transition pre AI, that virtual scribe human in the loop experience was pretty expensive. We're talking $2,500 $3,000 a month. 24 to 48 hour turnaround time. Yeah. So that made the transition easier, going from 48 hours to 20 seconds, and a significant price reduction. But yeah, you're right, because human scribes typically are doing a lot of things. They're heavily involved in a lot of areas of the documentation that sometimes, a fully automated solution can't do. Some are getting the dry cleaning on Wednesday too. There's just certain things that AI is not exactly certain things that AI is not quite ready yet. However, I think, once the speed and turnaround time and processing and the impact that's had on, particularly on the revenue cycle, I think that made that transition easier.
Yeah, I'm guessing dry cleaning's not on the roadmap, although it could be with AI. It's interesting. But, talk to us about how your solution compares to other AI medical scribes in the space. We could do the long list. These days, I just say go to healthcareittoday.com and click on the right side for ambient clinical voice companies, AI medical scribes.
Exactly.
But, how does your solution compare to, a number of other companies out there doing similar things?
Yeah, I'd say, and look, you're right. There's a lot of folks in the space. There's a lot of people sort of tackling it from different angles and highlighting different comparables. But again, I always revert back to our history, right, in those first 2 seasons, because I think to appreciate where we are in our uniqueness, you have to understand that first season of building those deep integrations, the mobile app that we built. You can really think of our mobile app and platform, which is still what's utilized today as far as the in-room applications the physicians using, essentially as a mobile EHR. There's a lot of depth of functionality in that application. Essentially, you can think everything other than e-prescribing, and e-prescribing is even something that we've considered adding to the platform, to where you can really sort of detach right from the EHR, be in this sort of fluid workflow. But when we think about our 3 uniques, John, there's 3 things that we think we do just quite frankly better than anyone. That's, I would say, extreme except very scalable per physician customization, right? Like talk to 10 physicians, you'll get 10 very different answers on how they want their notes to look, even in the same practice, even in the same pod. I think we understand that very well. That's where the human scribing experience has set us up for success. And the depth of integration. Again, everyone sort of touts this stuff, but I think, true integration is actually flipping switches once the information comes back in terms of orders, diagnoses, billing codes, et cetera, and really allowing the physician to sign off completely on the note, all these things, right? To where, can you truly close the laptop and walk away? That level of integration, I don't think that many people are doing that. We are. And then speed to value. we enable all of our users, by the way, to do this in a free 14-day pilot scenario. We go fully at risk. We deploy the jets. We go on site. We work with physicians, arm in arm to make sure they're successful. And if they don't want to continue forward after a free 2-week period, they don't have to.
Yeah, that's awesome. So talk to us about the workflow and what that looks like for a clinician in the exam room. Sounds like they're all mobile app, or can they use a desktop, or how does that work?
We're all mobile app today, and that's really by design. Because again, our point of view on this is that the PC or the desktop doesn't belong in the exam room. I think that's the fundamental problem that we set out to solve in season 1. Certainly, there's reason to have lab information, imaging, what have you, maybe on a mounted screen that's not obtrusive to the physician interaction, right? I think that's fundamentally, again, one of the biggest problems we're solving that we set out to solve in season 1 was bring back the interaction, bring back the humanity, just like you and I are having right now. This, great eye contact. My personal physician now is using an AI scribe, not ours, unfortunately. I'm going to try to fix that. But the experience of seeing him using a tool like this compared to where he was the year before when he was hunting and pecking on his computer, I was talking to the back of his head, right? Whereas this year, the entire experience was different. We had a lengthy conversation about a lot of personal things, a lot of personal, health challenges that my wife's gone through recently, and it just was a game changer. And it's pretty exciting and gratifying to be on the front lines of this and to help sort of usher this new era in. Because I think we're at a point with this technology, every physician is going to do this. This is not a nice to have, and that's pretty exciting. But yeah, to walk you through a scenario for us, we're very active in orthopedics. That's where we've carved out a great brand to date. We've expanded that. We work with a dozen specialties rather, and counting. But busy orthopedic surgeon, right? It's going to see 60 plus patients in a day, even more if they have extenders and PAs, et cetera, working for them, which is crazy. But they still somehow do it. They're going to start off typically in front of an imaging device, right? Some sort of PACS machine, right? And so in this scenario, they're going to kick off the recording. This is going to be more of a verbatim, one voice, X-ray interpretation, because it has to be very specific. They don't want to turn that over to an AI scribe to make its own interpretation, because it has to say very specific things in that interpretation required for billing. They're going to seamlessly, with the recording still rolling, they're going to breeze right into the exam room with the patient, and they're going to start having a very natural dialogue about the history, the HPI component of the note. There might be a spouse in the room. There might be an interpreter in the room. There might be a foreign language being spoken. All of these things are happening dynamically. Recording never stops. They come out of the room, then they're going to go back into essentially a real-time transcription mode for the assessment plan, because again, most physicians in orthopedics are very explicit for billing and next steps. They need to have very explicit assessment plan on exactly what's going to happen next. They've got these things really dialed in, because as it relates to denial management and making sure that notes are structured correctly for prior authorization, they have to be able to say these things and structure them correctly. So we account for all these things. And then the last piece of that is you also need to be able to incorporate standard exams or normals or macros that go into the physical exam that have variables. And the physician's just sort of rifling these things off 100 miles an hour, calling these things out. And we're able to structure all that information in 20 seconds, return it back discreetly into the EHR in each place, exactly where the physician wants it. It's just incredible. And every time I see it, myself, I'm blown away by what we're able to do, because it really is a pretty hectic, fast-paced, chaotic, real-world scenario that we're able to really automate and essentially make happen in real time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the next question is getting outdated, but how much of this is automated with technology versus humans? 20 seconds, I assume it's all technology?
All technology. That's the best scribe in the world. Couldn't move that fast for sure. But yeah, we've completely transitioned away from our human in the loop scribing, which is amazing. We've never looked back. However, what I will mention is we did hold on to our top 10. This is our elite Top Gun internal scribe managers these are our clinical documentation integrity experts. This is our feedback loop. These are the folks that are constantly reviewing, evaluating, working with our customers, making sure notes are accurate, making sure we're improving upon speed and turnaround time and accuracy and preferences so that we really get things dialed in on a per physician basis. We'll continue to grow and invest in that team because I think it's important. I really do think this is, it's not all about the tech. I think that's kind of what we're learning, a little bit of the dirty little secret in this space. The AI and the LLM is great, but this truly is a people process technology approach that you can't fully get rid of that. I think you've got to still have that human element and expertise involved to some degree, particularly as we expand into more complex revenue cycle components like advanced automated coding and prior authorization, where we're going to go next.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the EHR integration. You talked about initially doing Greenway Athena. How are you integrating with them? Sounds like you're focused on depth. Are you working with all EHR now, or still focusing on just a couple? Talk about that.
Yeah, we're staying very focused, primarily in ambulatory non-hospital settings, and that's by design. That's based on history, and again, we feel like that's a relatively underserved part of the market. While a lot of other bigger companies that have raised a lot of money are out charging after the big Epic environments. That's not our focus. We feel like we've done well and can continue to do well by staying focused on the I would say that sort of mid to lower tier market and purely ambulatory settings, which in the EHRs, of course, where we've built very deep integrations today, to name a few, the Athenas, the NextGens, Greenway, Veradigm, formerly known as Allscripts, TouchWorks, and the like. That's a big market. And oh, by the way, those are very, very difficult, most of them EHRs to integrate with. And so we feel like there's some unique advantages there to being able to do what I previously described in those systems.
Yeah. And I think that's going to continue to evolve and improve as the EHR vendors support better integrations too. So I think that's interesting. Talk about the clinician and what they have to do. Do they have to change the way they're talking in the exam room to make it work? What's your onboarding process to train someone to make sure they use it correctly? Over the years, of course, we've seen they have to verbalize what they're thinking.
Yeah.
I can't read their mind yet, although, the Neuralinks are working on it. But,
Yeah.
talk about what the clinician, your onboarding process for the clinician and anything else that you kind of teach them to make it effective. I do think it's interesting you're doing in room and out of room, which, lots of interesting questions and approaches there. But talk about the clinician and what you do for them.
Yeah, and again, I know I keep harping on this, but a lot of this does go back, which I think is unique and is our advantage, is all that time in market, right, before AI was ever on the scene. And this is where we had already built, a pretty big customer base that was using our mobile app, very extensively. We were already, performing human-based scribing at the time, getting roughed up by high demand physicians, that require very, very explicit, highly detailed notes with a lot of accuracy. And so all of those things, as we started to onboard and transition to a pure AI business, enabled us to, it forced us to set the bar high. That physician acceptance level is high. And I think what that means is truly meeting the physician where they are and creating an environment which we're very focused on, to where the physician doesn't have to change much, if at all. I mean, yes, the physical exam is the one area, that more objective, hands-on when they're in the room, that we do coach them through that, how to call things out, how to say out loud things like range of motion or other things that normally wouldn't be specifically verbalized, right? Which is usually
you have to say left knee, or
got to be specific about the body part. But yeah, it's those things the physician adjusts quickly to, especially when they see the value, right? And again, that back to that speed to value, which is always fun, by the way. It's fun to always see that first note come back. You're showing a physician something usually they've never seen before. That's what's just really cool about where we are in technology. It's truly something that hasn't existed. Go in the room. Sometimes they're in the room for 30 minutes, right? Or 20 to 30, not often in orthopedics, but a spine surgeon might. And then in 20 seconds, to have that whole dialogue that was very lengthy and complex and kind of all over the place sometimes, to have that just immediately fully documented is typically a mind-blowing event for them. And it's fun to witness. But yeah, we do, when we do large deployments, particularly, we we have a team again of very skilled. Many have clinical backgrounds. One of our lead implementation consultants was the PA of one of our busy physicians. We asked his permission before we hired her to come on board, but she's phenomenal. She understands these environments very well. We're building out a bigger and bigger team underneath her to support some of the growth that we're experiencing now. But I think that's important. I think having folks who really understand what these environments are like. Again, these are very, very fast paced, high production environments where there's not a lot of tolerance for things that don't work and don't work really well on patient number one. Otherwise, the physician's going to put the solution down, right? We are enabling the utilization of the Apple Watch increasingly. That's a really, really great fit for any provider, but especially high volume specialists, orthopedics who are typically using their hands and doing physical exams and range of motion detection, et cetera, with the patient. And this way we get really good audio quality, and these things are becoming more and more powerful by the day. So keep up the good work, Apple.
That's interesting. It's amazing how far we've come from microphones. I remember early voice recognition days. You needed a high-end microphone in a quiet environment to make it work, and now it's built into your device. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly. The noise canceling baked into the new iPhones is phenomenal. Yeah, they're far superior to the old USB microphones.
Yeah, the headsets. Wow. Let's talk about accuracy of the solution. How accurate is your solution? How do you measure accuracy and kind of evaluate how accurate you're doing at creating the note?
Yeah, accuracy is something that we're highly focused on. It's something that's measured, by individually on a per physician basis. Yeah, I think that's one of the areas where our in on staff, clinical documentation experts who are former scribes are heavily involved. This is during the onboarding process. This is one area that they're hyper focused on before handing over the customer to a full production environment when they're out of implementation. We don't do that until we get 2 thumbs up from the physician, which is often 2 weeks or more, right? In a high production, high volume environment where they've reviewed every single note. They feel like everything is as close to perfect as possible. If there is any issues, either in pilot or even post pilot, we've enabled some proprietaries that I want yet, but we feel like we've got some really good in-app customer service that's real time between our customer success team and the provider, so they don't have to go pick up the phone. They don't have to send an email. They're able to very quickly say, hey, this one didn't look quite right. Can you take a look at it? We troubleshoot it in real time so the corrections can be made right then and there.
That's pretty cool. And you talked about specialties a little bit. It sounds like you're working with about a dozen, but mostly ortho. Is that how you're approaching specialties? Are you looking to expand? Talk about working with different specialties.
Yeah, so for us, again, orthopedics is where we built our brand. We remain heavily focused there. I think it's a great market. I mean, when you look at the dynamics of that market, it's a booming environment. We've got obviously the aging population. Technology is getting better and better. Same day, total hips and knees, all day long, and it's remarkable. Any orthopedic group in the country that you go into, you can barely find a place in the parking lot. It's like Costco on Christmas Eve. It's crazy. And then youth sports, of course, is another big driver. So it's almost like every single person, walking is a walking orthopedic case. Pickleball.
I consider my ortho my primary care doctor, so I get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it makes sense for us to continue to double down there. But yeah, I mean, we're doing well in primary care now. We do have some health systems. When we think about health system, it's the physician practices, right, that are typically owned and employed by the health system or the hospital system. That's where our product obviously resides. And we've had really, really good success there. Quite frankly, it's gone better than we initially thought it would. So we're going to continue to put more marketing muscle around that. But other specialties that are getting launched this year that I think we'll see some continued success. Urology, ENT, gastroenterology, any of these specialists who don't live and breathe in their clinic 5 days a week, that are a little more mobile, that are in and out of procedure rooms, surgery centers. We've got a surgery center play up our sleeve as well this year. I think the automation of that operative report is something that I think is ripe for automation with AI as well.
Awesome. Well, Pat, I know the question. Anytime someone watches these videos, they want to go, where can they learn more? Where can they get a demo? Where can they find out about iScribe Health?
Yeah, no, absolutely. iScribeHealth.com. Our website is great. We've got the ability to self-schedule a demo. It won't just be me, I promise. And you'll be in good hands for whoever it is that does conduct your demo. But yeah, please check out our website. There's a lot of good content there. We're pretty active on LinkedIn as well. We try to do a good job of promoting our customers, our physician users, telling their success stories of using the product and how it improves their lives.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Pat. I appreciate you sharing this story. I mean, it's been quite a journey, and I'm excited to see how season 4 goes for you and the team. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting application. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Sean. Really appreciate it.